We did it. Yes, your backup plan. We're here finally. We had a bit of a break from our podcast shows. I'm so very sorry for all of my wonderful followers and subscribers. We are back full bore and we have lots of new shows coming up for you guys. Welcome, welcome. If you are new here, my name is Tina Ginn and I am with Your Backup Plan app. We are a podcast called Talking Taboo with Tina. Yes, and it's brought to you from Your Backup Plan. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so very much for subscribing. If you are new here, press on that subscribe button down here somewhere in the corner and click on the like button if you like this show, because every time YouTube has a like that's pressed, it helps other people see the show. Or like, share, and subscribe to your friends and family, because this is going to be an important show that you don't want to miss. We have an exciting guest on our show today from beautiful Southern California. His name is Andrew, and he is, our show is called, what is our show called today? Our show is called I Would Like to Focus on Love. Because we talk about it all of the time. And our show is called What is Love, Andrew? And Show Me the Way. Because there's so many times in life that we need to look at what does love bring to us through all those obstacles. How can we have love inside of ourselves? How can we share love with others that are going through struggles and pain, sometimes recovery, and sometimes passing? So this is going to be a very, very important topic. You know, talking taboo with death, dying, recovery, disability, hurricanes, natural disasters. We talk taboo about all of these subjects, but also taboo is love. And we don't talk about it enough, especially during COVID times. We find that we don't talk about this subject. So it's a very, very important topic today. And I'd like to welcome all of our beautiful listeners today to our show, whether you're catching this live or as on our YouTube channel, or if you find it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, you'll find us everywhere. Thank you to our community, Your Backup Plan tribe, for listening. And part of our listeners are United States. Thank you very much. Our top listeners are Canada, as well as Ireland. And our third highest listening subscribers are Germany. Yes, unbelievable. And so our next one is, of course, Scotland and England. And so I can't do those types of accents, but I can certainly welcome our German listeners. Meine deutsche Freunde sind unserem Podcast willkommen. Wenn Sie Kommentare haben, können Sie gern Fragen stellen. Also danke für deine Freundschaft. Let's get this party started. We talk about fun things. We talk about journeys that people have experienced, real life stories, real life people, about their honestly conversations about what has occurred in their life and what can we do to maybe look at that in a different light. Maybe look at what can we do to be better prepared for anything that comes our way. So if you haven't found out about Your Backup Plan app, we can certainly talk about that. Your Backup Plan brings your life all into one place so that in case of any natural disaster, any COVID, any deaths, any passing, any dementia, any Alzheimer's, any comas, any hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, anything that affects ourselves as well as our material life, we have a plan. and it helps you get better prepared beforehand in case of that instance or issue that we come across, whether it's a car accident, because when we're given 5-minute evacuation notices for wildfires, which is very, very common in all of the West Coast from California all the way up to British Columbia, as well as Australia. There's many different countries that struggled with floods and wildfires this year. So why not be better prepared for the unexpected? Because we don't know what tomorrow will bring. So in that note, if you haven't checked out our app, please do. It's in the description box down below, as well as our Facebook channels, our Instagram, and our Twitter and LinkedIn. So thank you, thank you. Let's get on the show on the road. We have a very special guest that I'm going to bring on right now. He's coming from beautiful Southern California near Los Angeles, and his name is Andrew Calderella. And here he is. There you go. Hey, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. So a little bit of background. I'm going to let you talk about it after, but where are my notes here? I get to interview this incredible entrepreneur who's been in our space for probably over 20 years or so. He is the CEO called The Foundation, which is www.7way.me, as well as drugtestingace.com, consultingace.com, and he's got a book called The Way on Amazon, and that's all in our beautiful description box down below for you guys. So, Andrew, what the heck? We have quite the story here coming up to us here today. So why don't we start from the beginning, and then you can tell us a little bit about what you ended up creating after all of these obstacles in your life.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, everybody wants me to start at the beginning of my life. It's kind of a traumatic experience for me. And first I want to say, like you mentioned, my name is Andrew Calderella. It is like Cinderella. It's Calderella instead of Cinder because I'm the male version. And that does mean I'm looking for my princess to come rescue me. So just a little way for people to help remember my name. When I tell the story too, when we tell these stories, it's not to compete against each other. This is truly just for you to get to know me. In life, we're really just competing with ourselves to be our best. So just keep that in mind. So I was born in 1966 in Detroit, Michigan, to parents fighting for the civil rights movement. I was born with dyslexia, other learning disabilities, and a lazy eye. And the lazy eye meant I was seeing 2200 vision out of that eye. So they put a patch over my good eye to make me look out of that bad eye. So I don't know if you can imagine this kid who couldn't see much, couldn't do math or spelling or pretty much anything in school very well. I was bullied a lot, not only by the kids, but even adults got into it. I had a teacher tell me in elementary school I was too stupid to learn anything. I should just drop out and go get a job. So
how is that even possible when you what's wrong with people?
This, I think sometimes teachers get a little jaded, and I don't want to say it. It's like police officers and nurses and doctors. Sometimes they just experience so much trauma. I think sometimes it can break them. But she didn't just pick on me. She picked on a couple other kids too. But I'll tell you, when you're ridiculed in the middle of class, for 5 minutes telling you how stupid you are, it doesn't do much for your self-esteem. And plus, I had to go to this learning disabled group. And as an adult, you shouldn't name a group called the learning disabled group if you want these kids to assimilate into society in any way normal. So I want you to know, though, I did graduate from elementary school with the help of my mom and a special teacher. I did go to high school. I was an athlete. I came out of my shell in about 11th grade. I ran for vice president of school. I won that and graduated, went on to college, got degrees in speech communications, theology, and philosophy. Traveled the world after that, got a job in Japan. Started so many different businesses. And if you look at my bio, I've done pretty much every job you can imagine. Gave me a lot of experience. And now, while all this was going on, I just want you to know I've had a lot of spiritual experiences. I've been very close to God. And I've been on this greater mission to kind of find the answers to some of the greatest questions that have been plaguing humanity, and that's where the way comes from. So this isn't a a writer guy doing book after book to sell them and make money. This is a life's mission of a dyslexic who could barely write, to be able to struggle, to be able to get this truth out to the world. And I know that people are skeptical, and we're told we're so divided and how the world is going down and we're all going to be in war or dead soon or whatever it may be. But I'm saying that there's hope. And what I have found is that the complete opposite is true. Sometimes humanity needs to be burned to learn and shaken to awaken to really find truth. And so many of us are awake right now. We have the masses, the wealth, the power, and everything we need to fix this world and make a better society. And truly, it's not going to be that hard if we're just get on the same page. So take a look at the way. Don't be too jaded and skeptical. Give me a chance.
Yeah. Do you think sports helped you at that point through high school to build up that self-esteem? What kind of sports did you get involved in?
Well, I've always been physical. I think there's two types of kids that are bullied. There's the kids that sometimes you certainly do have to accept it because the kids are bullied. You really just can't do much. But then there's the kids that fight back, and I've always been a bit of a fighter. My dad got me into martial arts when I was a kid. I also, since I was a little kid, I've been playing basketball, even though I couldn't see much. I was into it, track and cross country. Things that required a ball, I had to stop playing. I did t-ball. I could barely hit the ball off the tee. I got hit in the face with a baseball when we started throwing the ball, and then my dad was like, you can't do this. You know what I mean? So for me,
because I find with that type of ball, it's less than seconds to see it. So if you have any difficulties, it's pretty impossible.
I don't see in 3D. So when you monocular, you see out of one eye, you don't have the depth perception. So the faster the ball's moving, it's like, you can't tell. You got to get good at determining the size, differentiation, determine how far it is, and shadows and all these kind of things. And honestly, doing that with a baseball, traveling at 80, 90, whatever miles an hour is really, really difficult. So these challenges, certainly being an athlete helps you, because what I've learned is that, maybe we should talk about depression and suicidal thoughts and all that, because I did go through that when I was a kid. If you're told you're stupid all the time, mocked, thrown in trash cans, stripped down naked, and almost drown, and all that all the time, every day, bad things happen to you, it leads you down this path of negative thinking and depression, and ultimately to suicidal thoughts. And just so the audience knows, I do have a video on this, on how to overcome these things, because I've been through this. And I think that this is one of those challenges in life that we just can't ignore. This isn't heaven. This isn't a perfect reality. We all have challenges. And if you don't know how to deal with them properly, they can hurt you. But with the right knowledge and the right best practices, you can get through these things and actually become better for it. And that's what I found.
Yeah. But you don't see that when you're going through it.
Well, I don't know. I've been through so many that after a while, when it happens again, you're like, all right, what is the lesson? You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's like, what am I here for? What did I do?
I don't like those lessons, Andrew.
Oh, I don't either. And I think sometimes, like you ask God, it's like, gosh, why did I have to be burned so much in this instance to learn this? It's like sometimes we don't know. We can't see what we can't see. And I think life sometimes, your spirit, that the person that you really want to be, this ultimate true self that you're striving to become, if you really choose that path of goodness and becoming this best person that you want, sometimes you have to go through this badness, to really understand it. I was talking with somebody on a show recently where they were a gang member and, shot 22 times, all sorts of issues. But he had learned what love really meant and how to help people that are in these circumstances out, and how the wrongness in society is creating these circumstances where it doesn't need to be that way, and all these great lessons. So, it's like, I have so many stories coming to mind. I think part of my problem is I have so many things to say at the same moment.
Yeah, no, it's cool. You have so much to share with everybody, it could be show after show after show.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be doing my own show soon. It's going to be called One Show. So you can tune into that. I'm going to go through all the lessons I've learned, how to become the best person you can be, how we can fix our society, and tackling all the biggest issues in the world. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So after graduating, and what was your first obstacle that you had to overcome?
Well, I think when you're, well, certainly the negative thinking, depression, and suicidal thinking is something that I think if you experience major trauma as a kid because you're psychologically not predisposed to really understand what is happening for one and how to deal with it, and certainly the people around you might not know how. So you may end up with some scars that can affect you later in life. No matter what steps you take, they're there. And I think that has been and is one of my my greatest challenges, is dealing with some of this. Like, people don't want to listen to you. You know, it's like every time I tried to read or speak or do anything, it was like, oh, shut up, you know, laughing, snickering, or whatever it may be. So you develop this fear of public speaking, you know, and here I am on shows public speaking. So there is I want to say, I think sometimes God puts these challenges in our life to see if we can stand up and really become the people we're meant to be through the challenges. Because how challenging would it be if it was easy? You know what I mean? It's
not a challenge.
Exactly. And this life is certainly a challenge. And I think it doesn't need to be so challenging to some degree for some of us. We can still learn those lessons without being almost murdered or shot or raped or whatever it may be. And it doesn't make what those people did or the society right, even though we've learned these lessons. And that was one of the things I learned when I was a kid, when these bullies, like, they were always like, yeah, but I made you strong and I made you this. I'm like, no, I made myself strong. You were the one who was still doing the wrong thing at the wrong time to people, because I learned a lesson doesn't make you right,
Right.
by your wrongness. And I think that's something in our society we really have to deal with, because the bullies grow up, and if they're not corrected properly as kids, they create a lot of problems in our society. We just see it today. This whole sickness of superiority has infected humanity from our start, and it's this corruption of spirit, this falling to the dark side, as some say, vice versus virtue, this good versus evil. This is the whole point here. I know to some it sounds cliche, you've heard it before and whatever, but really, if you look at all of life, that is the whole point here. Are you going to stand up and be good, which is a little harder, and make yourself into a beautiful work of art? Or are you going to take the easy path and just become a lump of coal and do what the society has dictated you should do, like watch TV and eat junk food all day, right?
It sounds like fun. I don't know how much we'll accomplish in life, but so...
No, and I talk to people like that too, and when you talk to them, they don't feel fulfilled.
No.
When they get away from the TV and you sit down with them, you have a conversation, sometimes they use that as an escape because they don't know what to do to make their life the best they can be. And that's why I wrote this book. I have a conversation with people my whole life and argue with God about this. It's like, if people don't know what to do or even what good is, how can you blame them for all the failings that they've gone through, especially when we're all born ignorant and we're not taught properly. Right? It's like, that's where you get, to me, it's like all this hatred and all of this division and everything else we're seeing in the society where everybody's pointing their finger is as much of the people's problem that are doing the pointing of the finger as it is the people that are wrong on the other side. We're both wrong in the way we're handling this.
Yeah.
If you didn't know something, if you were truly ignorant and being manipulated in a cult, wouldn't you want your loved ones to help you see the truth? They're not going to help you see the truth if you slap them in the face, tell them they're stupid, tell them they're, whatever, all these names and everything else people call people, and then expect them to listen to you and be your friend. So, this idea that we're so divided, I think I did a video on this, just so you know, and I'm still getting used to doing videos and all this, so I apologize for my skills on this, but the messages are so important. We all want the same things. I don't care who you talk to in this world. Everybody wants the same things. We want a wonderful life. We'd like to breathe clean air, have a healthy world, have functioning government, have companies that don't destroy us and pay us well and take care of the world and all the rest of the good stuff. Everybody wants this, right? Nobody wants dysfunctional government and all the rest of the horrors, war, and death, and division and hatred. And I think that key point is kind of the whole point of humanity, right? Because we have this dichotomy in life. It's like we all want the same things, all this good stuff. Right? Everybody around the world, yet you look at the world and you're like, then why is everything so messed up? Right? And the answer to that is because we're all born ignorant. And then as we go through our life, we don't all learn a a guiding code that will allow us to navigate all of life in a way that we can overcome these trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
You know, I know I'm going to go on for a little bit here, but I just want to say that the beginning of the way starts with this question, like, what is the true goal of life? And this ties into the idea of love. So I'm going to tell this little story because it really affected me as a kid and is really key to understanding this whole concept, I think. Now, let me set the stage here. When I was little, my sister also has issues. She's had surgeries since she was before she was even 1 year old, and all through her life to save her life. She has some health issues. And me with my disabilities too, we always go to these hospitals, children's hospitals. I don't know if anybody's ever been in one before, but if you go there, I mean, I had to be taught how to not cringe, as a little kid, because you see the most trying things that you can imagine. You see little children that have been horribly burned or deformed or dying and all the rest of this. And we'd go there. And I remember I was there. My sister was recovering from an accident. And we're in the children's ward and whatever. And I'm talking to this one girl. And she's in the bed. She's got tubes in her. And I'm talking to her. And I don't know how we got on this subject, but we were talking about what is really important. And she says, the only thing that's really important is love. And I said, little kid, I'm like, there's so many other things that are important. And I mentioned, so many things I can't remember. I was a little kid. And I'm like, going outside and, this and that and the other. And she says, no, a little tear in her eye and stuff. She starts talking to me. She says, none of that matters without love. I used to go outside and play. I used to have friends, but now I'm going to die. And the only thing that matters is that my parents and these nurses come in and I know they love me. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even want to be here anymore. And again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not sure exactly what she said at this moment. I wrote it down in the book, but I think that moment always stuck with me because I had to leave and I never saw her again. I have no idea if the treatments worked, if she got out of that place or not. And I think that whole point of what true success, what the whole goal of life is tied up in that one moment. And I say it like this. The true goal of life is what a loving mother wants for their child, right? They want them to be happy and healthy, to have relationships that last, that are good, to be passionate about something worthwhile that they can maybe support themselves with, and all the rest of the pieces that make up a wonderful life. People get too caught up in wealth, power, and fame. And if you look at the lives of people that are wealthy, famous and powerful, and that doesn't mean that they automatically have great relationships. They're automatically healthy. They automatically know what to do with their money. They automatically are helping the world. And that's what you can see. The brokenness of our society is because we as humanity are broken. And the leaders that rise up don't have a code that they can adhere to that will allow them to see and do the right. And a lot of times it's the bullies, it's the might overwrite people that are in power positions, and they are not handling the situation correctly. Does that all make sense?
Yes. I was going to say, what does love mean to you? But that sums it up all right there. I had a similar instance where I created your backup plan from, and it was from also a dying woman who I went to visit at the hospital. And it seems to be so profound, such profound wisdom coming from people who see death or sickness in a different way. And it's those moments that you have like this light bulb that goes off as soon as they say something. It's like, oh my gosh, that's like the secret sauce, or that's that means everything. Because I talk to people about being present. And why are we not present? We're too busy looking at our phones. We're too busy watching what's on TV. We're too busy looking at who's wearing the fancy dress tomorrow at the gala, or we're worried about what the neighbors just bought, or all of these things, instead of looking at what truly matters in life. And when someone's sick or dying or trying to recover, it's those moments we need the love. We need to share the love, not worry about any of the crap that I call it that goes into your backup plan. It sounds lovely, doesn't it? But it's true. It's all that stuff that we have in our heads that no one else knows about. And why not be present and not worry about where their key is, or worry about how they're going to pay their mortgage, or all of that sort of thing. So I really appreciate you talking about that, because I had a very similar instance with someone who found out she had lung cancer. And it was a very profound moment of, Tina, I just want to see the blue sky. I want to feel the air on my face, and I want to hear the birds. Now, if that doesn't put it down to a simple life, I don't know what does.
Yeah, well, let me speak to that for a second, because along with these trials as a kid, I've also been through a lot more. I've been in more fights than most people can imagine. I've been attacked by dogs numerous times. Almost lost my leg once. I was hit by 4 cars once, where I was laid out for 5-7 years, or I could barely walk, or I couldn't really walk. I crawled to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. And I bring that up because I've had so many times where I've also almost came so close to death, or some traumatic thing happening to me. And there's something really special that happens in these moments, especially when you come home. It's like I've had this happen so many times that it became clear to me. It's like I literally would come home from after being in a major car accident, and everything in my house seemed to glow. It seemed magical. It seemed like your appreciation for your basic life is so much greater if you spend a few weeks in the hospital, or if you're broken, you appreciate your people that are helping you. And I'll tell you, one of the most challenging times I ever had, I was hit by a car, sitting at a stoplight, 60 miles an hour from behind, ruined my back and my hip, and laid out for years and years in my 30s. And the prime of your life, I went from working out for a couple hours a day, going to my job and dating and all of this, to, if you move, you're going to spasm out and be in agony. You know what I mean? Like, don't move, don't breathe too deeply, because I ruptured a disc right behind my heart. And it would, I couldn't breathe. I mean, it was really, really traumatic. And the mental game you have to play, and I've talked with other people that have been paralyzed, and is that you have to control yourself. I mean, you literally, part of the way is, I can tell the meaning of life if you'd like, really quickly, and it kind of gives this background on this story a little bit. I sometimes go down these rabbit holes with people. They say they like them. If you don't mind, I can do that real quick.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, it'll only take a couple minutes. So this is one of those things that I think is really important for people to understand, because everybody talks about the meaning of life and what that means. And I'm going to show you exactly what it means. So I'm going to start before the beginning. So before the beginning, there is God. And then in the beginning, there is what we call the Omniverse. Think of the Omniverse as everything that is of God, but is different and separate from God. And in the Omniverse, we have our universe. Now, Tina, have you ever played the Child's Game of Life before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the game of life, the Child's Game of Life, just so everybody knows, comes in a box, right? It's got a board. You have a piece. You move it along this board. Some of it's chance, some of it's your choices that will end up determining your life. In our world, in this universe, these rules and regulations that determine everything, we call the conditions, the human conditions. Now, there are 2 different types. There are the universal. This is the big stuff, the fact that we're in a universe, entropy, gravity, day and night, all that big stuff. And then there's the human-centric conditions that are more like the fact that we're born ignorant, that it takes us so long to develop, from a little baby to an adult. That we need fuels and food and love and emotional support and knowledge, all this stuff, all those human-centric things. You add up all these together and you analyze it, you come up with, they focus us in really 3 ways. And this is true for all of humanity. They focus us on self-creation, self-development, self-control, and societal development. So literally you have to create yourself from a little baby all the way up to an adult, but you also have to control this, right? You have to make choices on who you're going to become if you're going to be the best person you can be. But we also are born in a society. No one is an island unto themselves. Unless you're born in the middle of the jungle, left there, and you're raised by wolves, you're in a human society. So the society around us has to be conducive, really, if you're going to become the best person that you can possibly be, without too much trauma associated with it. So these three factors, the fact that you have to make yourself into who you're going to be, and we have to live in a conducive society, you need to help make it, you're a part of it, show us the meaning of life. Because the meaning of life then is to make your life meaningful, right? It's to create a meaningful life and to find meaning in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just go out there and let it happen to you. You have to choose who you want to be. And I'll never forget this conversation I had with my dad. And I was, I don't know, I want to say 6th, 7th grade. This was, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm not super huge, but I'm 6'1". So by the time I came in 6th grade, all the bigger bullies had left, right? I'm at the top of the food chain, and the bullies in my grade are my size. And I had 2 fights, and that was the end of the bullying, because I won both fights, and then the bullies all kind of cheered me on. I became their friend. What I learned is that, I know it's weird. It's like this idea of the bully beatdown. I can't tell you how many men I fought, and then they like want to have a beer with you after you win, or you don't hurt them, you take them down, and showing them mercy. It's because I don't want to hurt anybody. Anybody that wants to hurt anybody, I want to say to you, you're fallen, man. You're on the wrong side of this. Okay, if you think you're a good person and you're out to hurt other people, you fall into the dark side a little bit. Okay, the idea is not to hurt other people; it's to help them. Okay, let me say, I know I go down tangents sometimes, but this, I think, is one of those really important things, and it has to do with love. All good people want the best for everybody, okay? You can't write anybody off, okay? I was written off as a kid by so many, I can't even tell you, and that's not fair. It's not fair to do it as adults. It's not fair to do it at any time. People can change. People can change their minds. They're not going to change their minds if you slap them in the face and you start calling them names. They might change their minds if you show them logic, treat them with respect and dignity, and walk them down the path of truth, right? So if we as a society are really going to make a difference and create a better world, we have to start treating people with respect. And this starts with love. Look at it like this. If you take the people that you hate the most, or the most evil people in the world, and you bring them back and make them all kids, little kids, would you want to go in that room and kill those children, or would you want to raise them better and help them become better people? Right? I know this is an extreme example, but imagine little baby Hitler. What happened to him during his life that twisted him so much? You know what I'm saying? It's like, imagine if that kid was raised better, but he became a great leader. He could have been like uniting the world, you know what I'm saying, instead of just trying to destroy the world, thinking it's good. And the other point here is that all good people, right? Nobody thinks they're doing evil when they're doing it. Everybody thinks they're doing good. Most of the greatest evils on this planet are people think they're doing good. Look at the Crusades. No Christian I've ever talked to said, yeah, Jesus Christ would want, thousands of people come down to his homeland and commit murder, rape, and pillage, and steal all their stuff. There's no way Jesus would want that, and yet, countries believe that was the good thing to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we as a people, other people blowing themselves up thinking they're doing good and killing other people. So like I said, most of the evils human people do to each other are done because they're thinking good. And that's because we don't have a core belief system and an understanding of what good really is and how to be our best. So does that make sense? I know I went on there for a while.
It's funny how we don't know what love is. I mean, that's what it all boils down to.
Well,
we have these different views of love, which is very strange.
Well, I think it also comes down to us really not understanding what good means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and this is the funny principle of the way. Okay, we did the first chapter, which is the difference between success and true success. The true goal of life is to be your best self, live your best life, right? Help society and all those good things. But the way, let me just explain what the way is in 4 words. And this is a solution. I want to say this. The way isn't my way. This is humanity's way for us to become our best. And the solution you're seeking has to have these 4 principles. Okay, and this is why I'm saying this is the way. Okay, these 4 principles are, the first one, it's got to be something you live. It can't be something you do once in a while. It can't be an occasional habit. It needs to be something you can embrace and become. So it's living, rational. Rational is the word I picked to mean that it has to be logical. It's got to be customizable to fit your life. It has to be holistic. It's got to cover all of your life, because you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? If you're missing that weakest link, it doesn't matter if you other ones are as strong as Hercules, right? You're still broken. So it's living, rational. It's also fun. That's part of rationality. living rational positive. Now, this is the key here, okay? Being positive as a human means that we are trying to integrate some goodness into our life. And the highest good traits, the highest positive things, we call virtues. And don't get hung up on this word. You've heard this before, but this is so key to life, because seriously, every success book, every self-help book, everything you pretty much read on becoming a better person, all of faith, all of our society is built around this idea. And this is the highest traits that humans admire are called virtues. And these are things like being happy and healthy and disciplined and dedicated, a good speaker. You name it, the trait that you want and you wish, and you look at other people and you like in them, that's a virtue. Okay, so that's really key to understand. The next key is the way is living rational, positive action, because to make a virtue real, you have to take actions, and sometimes there's a lot. So like the virtue of being punctual requires you to take actions like sending reminders and leaving on time. The virtue of being healthy requires you to have a good eating, exercise plan, sleeping plan, and all the rest. You know, every virtue requires these actions. And the best actions are called best practices. So the key here is to integrate best practices and virtues into your life. Now, understand this, that to develop a habit, it takes about 90 days. So the whole goal of the way is to integrate key best habits or best practices and make them habits over every 90-day cycle. And this is literally how you're going to make yourself, through time, a better and better person, because there are best practices that if you integrate in all these different areas of your life, that will literally improve your life, improve your relationships, improve your health, everything that you can imagine. So that's why I'm here, and that's what the way is all about.
That's cool. What do you think made a difference going through your life with all of these, like right from childhood till today? Who made that difference in your life of support and love?
Well, I mean, certainly I have my family.
Yourself.
Myself, my mom. My mom was the one that I look back on who was always there. And I always felt bad for her, because she had, you know, my sister was sick, had her issues. I had my learning issues. She had to spend so much time with me. And my poor brother, you know, he was the one that was like totally healthy and did well in school and had none of these other issues. So he was kind of left alone, I think. And I feel bad about that. But honestly, if it wasn't for my mom, my dad obviously supported us too, but he worked all the time. So while he wasn't there in the house, you know, him coming home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, some nights, you know, because he worked all day, he supported us. I mean, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had a house, we wouldn't have had food or anything, or the ability to do much. So, you know, sometimes the unsung heroes are the people that aren't sometimes there. And some people resent that, but it's like, what are they supposed to do? Not make money? You know what I mean? And what are you going to do? Live on the street? So God bless my dad for that. So my mom, I also had a special teacher that spent some extra time with me. But I think a lot of times too, the traumas I went through as a kid, as far as learning goes, were unneeded. Some learning disabilities you're never going to fix. You're never going to make me a great spelling or a mathematician. And why you're belaboring that, to me, is a little bit a waste of time. What you need to do is show the kid how to use a dictionary, how to use a calculator, how to compensate for the issues, and not spend so much time making him like there's something wrong with him and because he can't do this, and make him do spelling over and over and over again. It's like, how fast can I look up those words in the dictionary would have been a better test to me. Because honestly, if you don't get the first 3 letters, you can't look up anything. I learned that very, very early as a kid.
I used to hate that in class when they said, when I put my hand up and I'd say, well, how do you spell unpredictable, or whatever the teacher was saying? And she would always reply, or he, with, look it up.
I think that's actually good, because it taught you a skill.
Yeah.
Taught you how to find the answer and rebel against. My dad always said that when I asked questions, be like, look it up. I mean, my dad worked for Encyclopedia Britannica, and we had all of the encyclopedias, dictionaries. We also had the great books of the Western world, which is all the philosophers of the Western world, and it has the great conversation at the beginning, and these keys where you can literally read like the subject of love. You can look that up in the Great Conversation and then find every philosopher's ideas about love. And you can go to that page and read what Aristotle, Hume, Kant, you name it, what they all thought about these subjects. So for me, that was a while it was a pain and I could barely read, it made me learn. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that without some of that struggle, because I did 30 years worth of research to be able to find some of the answers, to find many of the answers that went into the way and how we as humans literally make ourselves into the best people we can be. And like I said, so living rational positive action, you integrating virtues and best practices into your life and doing that over every 90-day cycle is how you become the best people you can be. But think about this. Think about if you had all this knowledge on all the best practices on how to do everything, and you taught your children this from birth. So as they grow, like from the first habits they develop, it is the best habit, right? Imagine how much further in life they will go by starting there. And I think that's the whole point to humanity. It's like we can take a book, summation of all the knowledge of the past thousands of years on how to be your best, integrate it with ourselves, and then change and become something so much greater. But then we can change our whole world. Like in 2 or 3 generations of all of us having this knowledge and integrating it not only into our children's lives, but into our society, the virtues in society, it would be a totally different world, and we can keep improving and keep improving. And this is how we get to this true society, this wonderful place that we all want to live in, right? And again, I just want to say this. I'm going to do a little segment. Everything that is happening right now, it doesn't need to be this way, okay? We have the technology, we have the people, we have the resources, we have everything we need to fix everything in this world. The only thing that's holding us back is a few leaders. If you think about the leadership in the world, there's probably a few hundred people that if we just help them wake up and do the right thing, or change them and put the better people in place, we can fix everything. I mean, seriously, like within 2 or 3 years, you'd be like, wow, I can't believe this world. It's on the right track now. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I have the way, I have the one. The one is, the idea is I have the one show, the one tribe, the one movement, and one party. Now, this is how we all learn the information within the way, within the one show and the one tribe. And then we go out within the one movement and one party to implement these greater changes within our society. So we all need to like take responsibility for ourselves, get up on this foundation with each other, join hands, and make the changes happen in society. So please help me.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's pretty much profound right now during this COVID pandemic, isn't it? It's brought a whole other thing to our challenges and our lives.
I think it put love right in the forefront, though, didn't it?
It did, but it didn't. It took some of it out. Like, look at someone in ICU dying in COVID, and then you can't be beside them. You can't be near them. You can't, that to me is going to change life in the future. Wearing masks in public, and it's nice to think it's good for the pandemic, but is it good? When you go to smile to someone, they have to look at your eyes to see if you're smiling.
No, I think there's good and bad in everything, but I think that, if you look at spiritually and psychically, or whatever you want to say, just as humanity as a species, we all wanted to wake up. We knew we were keep walking down this path of destruction, right? With the pollution of our world, with the dictatorship, with the hate, division, and all of this is leading us to destruction, right? And this next level of destruction that we are going to reap if we go to war again is nothing like we've ever seen before, with the robots and the plagues and everything else we can unleash on each other. So I think that this is the last gasp of humanity to try to wake up and unite to make these greater changes happen that we all want, because nobody wants this, right? Nobody wants lockdowns. Nobody wants to wear masks. Nobody wants to have all this trials and tribulations in our society. Certainly have your businesses destroyed. My businesses were destroyed. I'm trying to start over. It's trying times. How do I say this? I had a conversation with somebody the other day. It was like, God is hardcore. God will literally rip your arm off to teach you a lesson. I say that because one of the bullies I had as a kid, he used to live up the street from me. I used to go to to the pool. I used to ride through his territory, and I remember I always took a risk because I didn't want to go the long way around. And I was like, so I'd ride really fast through. And sometimes he'd catch me, sometimes he wouldn't. And this one day I saw him. He was out. He came up to me. He's coming down the street, and I'm like, oh, I got really afraid, and I'm freaking out because he only has one arm. And he's like, Andrew, don't don't run, man. Just wait. Let me talk to you. And I'm standing there, and he's like, I just want to apologize. I want to say I'm sorry for bullying you all those years and being so mean to you. And he was like, I'm like, what? What happened to you? He was like, he was in a motorcycle accident, lost his arm. But then he said it was the best thing that ever happened to him because it woke him up. He literally was. He said, I was such a mean and bad person, and now I have such more of appreciation for life. I really want to be a good person, and I realized all the horror I did. I had a conversation with gang members who have murdered people that then learn, oh my God, how horrible this is, right? So we're not here to be perfect. None of us are perfect. Everybody, I think the problem is that we're all trying to claim perfection. Like nobody can make a mistake, especially some of us men. Dude, the male arrogance, the sickness of superiority, this corruption of male spirit to where you feel like you got to put another man under your thumb. You got to make him subservient to you or have some type of game, and all of this is like one of the biggest problems in the world, right? We're all brothers, we're all sisters, we're all children of God. We all are one race, one human race. We all share 99.9% of our DNA. These differences that we're seeing, that we're pointing out and making like now we have to go to war over it, are ridiculous. Okay, they're being done to us so very few corrupt people can gain more money and power. It has nothing to do with what humanity wants and what we are really after. You can look at every revolution that's ever happened in the history of humanity is to overthrow the dictators, to overthrow all this hate stuff, to try to get us to a better union, right? And we keep, unfortunately, getting leaders that are not on the same page. And that's where I'm hoping if we could all get on the same page regarding these basics of life that I share within the way, we can fix all of these problems. We really can.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, I always talk about the importance, you're looking after your mom right now. What are you going to feel when she's taking her last breath? What are you going to think about? I talk to people because it's the biggest time for people to fight amongst their family. It brings up all sorts of emotions. It brings back memories of how we didn't get along or we did get along within the family structure. And I know it's important to be there beside the person, but do you think you'll have a hard time being present after learning these lessons?
Well, let me back up a little bit. I lost my dad when he was fairly young. He was in his, I think, 60. He died of cancer, lung cancer. 6'4", strong guy, worked his whole life and died within a year and became a skinny old guy that you wouldn't even recognize. And I was there when he grabbed his last breath. And so much with that.
Yes. People don't realize it, do they, how important that moment is?
No, let me tell you a little story. Before he died, I remember we were in the hospital and he was hallucinating. He was literally like thinking he would go through these things. Like this one time he was driving in his car and he was freaking out because he couldn't stop the car and it was in traffic and all this stuff. And the nurses and everybody were telling him he's not, and he's freaking out. He's getting more upset. And I said, everybody just stop, just back off, get away from him. And I started talking to my dad and I just like, Dad, I'm here. I'm right next to you. Let me take the wheel. Let me have it, Dad. I can take over. He's like, Drew, are you sure? Are you sure you can do this? I'm like, Dad, I can do it. I can navigate. Don't worry. And he finally gave me the control of the car. And I'm like, Dad, I'm going to slow down now. I'm pulling over into the driveway. We're home. And he relaxed. And I'm trying not to cry right now, but
that's okay.
It was like
I'm with you.
It was like one of these moments to where our reality doesn't matter sometimes. It's what is happening to this other person. And you need to go there, right? If you're going to help these people. So don't not acknowledge their suffering. Don't make their suffering something that it's not. Like I remember when I broke my back and I was laying in bed and I had so many people just kind of just leave me. Like I lost my friends and they never called me. It's like, it's
like, where
weird.
did everyone go?
Yeah, no, I know. It's just like abandoned. You feel so lonely and you're crying and it's like nobody, it's like you feel like nobody cares. And I think in that moment, I was able to reach my dad because I went to where he was. And when we ended up losing him, it was very traumatic. And with my mom has health issues, and I can tell you, I'm taking care of her for many years. Okay, and she's a walker, and I don't want to go into her health issues. She doesn't like me talking about it, but she's fallen and broken her arm. She's hit her head. She's done so many things, and it's like when you find your mom on the floor, she's had a stroke where she can't talk or do anything. It's like your soul. It's like on the line. I mean, you're like, I can't fix this myself, but I can be here for her. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that's helping her up off the floor, or calling the ambulance, or being there for her in the hospital to make sure she gets the care that she needs. And this backup plan, like you said, I have in the second book. And I'm going to put this on the website, this whole idea about your go bag and your backup plan, like your go plan, like if there is a disaster, what would you take out of your house? Where are all your passwords to your stuff? You've got to have a package kind of ready for the people to help you. I remember when I was broken in my bed, it was like, I just started my company and now I'm laying in my bed. I like, how do I do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do I make my company work and pay my bills and everything else? So taking some time and constructing like a go plan to like, where would you escape? If all your different family members are separated in the valley and there's an earthquake or a fire, where would you go and meet? Like a town over from here, or 2 towns over, or wherever it may be, some safe place that you can meet up. Have a hotel in a safe area where you could call and leave a message for somebody else who might call, some public place like that. You can say, oh, we're going to check in. I need to leave a message for my brother. He's going to call in, you know what I mean? And sometimes they'll help you out, especially if there's an emergency. So having your escape routes planned, having your stuff that you're going to grab. And if you've got 5 minutes, all of these plans will also help you feel a little bit less anxious when you're going through something, because it's taken care of and your family can help you. But also after you die, if you have, like you talk about with your legacy items that you want to keep going, whether it be a book, who gets control of the book? You know what I mean? How is that still being published? Your website, who's got access to the passwords? Where is everything so people can help keep everything going if that's what you want? So you need to have kind of these plans like you talk about a lot. And I think that's really important. And for me, when I went through that car accident, I think it put everything in stark relief, because even then it's like, okay, I can't go to the doctor myself. I can't even drive a car. You know what I'm saying? I can't go get food. I can't go anywhere. So how do I deal with your life when you're in that circumstance? So I hear you. It's very challenging.
And even as little as, where are the keys, like for the garage or the shed or for the back door, or how do you get into the person's house if they've been in a car accident and they're in a coma? I mean,
we got like a one of those services so people can come into the house, emergency people. They have a key, they can get in here and help my mom. She's got one of those buttons around her neck and things like that. Those are really important.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And you've had these plans in place, right? So, and we talk about family conversations. So you need to have those conversations, like your example with your mom. What does she want it to look like? How does she want it to go? What does she want left? What does she want? How does she want it to look? And we don't talk about that stuff. We just don't.
Yeah, it's a tough conversation. I know when you're talking about death and leaving this world, it's like, I have a lot of conversations recently with older people that are asking me questions, deep questions, like, well, what does this all mean? Why is it all here? Why are these children being hurt? Why is this? Why is this? They want to understand if they're going to keep going. And what I say is, like, you have to view your life as a forever life, in the sense that this body that you're inhabiting is just a vehicle in this life. Okay? If you're a believer, which I am, and I've been shown that this is true throughout my life, that I've had a lot of spiritual experience that have proven this to me. And I know that God may always be a subjective truth, because if we knew God exists, there would be no free will. And without free will, you don't have choice, which means God gave us this whole thing about being able to fail so that we can succeed, but on your choice, right? We can make a better world or not. We can make ourselves a better person or not. And this is the whole challenge, right? Because God doesn't.
You can choose your path.
Yeah, and that's a gift. I mean, you go back to the Adam and Eve idea of being in the garden, and everybody looks at this as a huge failure, right? Oh, they took the knowledge. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you are misinterpreting that. What God showed me is that was exactly what was supposed to happen. It's like if you're raising your kid and they become a teen, you want them to rebel. You want them to take the knowledge. You want them to grow up and be fully realized people. We were created in the image of God, that are all the children of God, which means we can and want to know pretty much everything. If it's not you, it's somebody else. This guy's studying how to build space stations, and this guy's studying how many hairs there are in an ant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like
Yeah.
we as a human race want to know everything and how to do everything. And that's the beauty. You know what I'm saying? That is the fulfillment of the promise of being the children of God. So this idea that you should have been a puppet and you should not have knowledge and you should just be subservient. Being subservient to whom? We're all born ignorant. So there's nobody on this planet that is perfect. There's nobody that has the all knowledge before they're taught it. So if you give it all up, then what are we going to be? Just animals in this field? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that whole idea of not having knowledge and staying in the garden as children, I think is a really, really wrong way of viewing it. We as people with the right knowledge can become so much greater than we are now. So that's why, again, I wrote The Way, is to show us how we can kind of embrace this higher self, our true self, I call it in the book. Live your true life, create our true society, which is the highest level of society that we can have, where everybody is experiencing a conducive society that helps them become their best self. It doesn't have to be this traumatic.
No, but it seems to somehow. I mean, some people say, well, I'm invincible and nothing's going to happen to me. What would you say to that comment?
Sometimes the fall is going to be very hard for people like that, because we're all human. I think sometimes some people are set up like that. I've talked to them. I mean, I've talked to athletes where they're strong throughout their life, and then something happens either on the field, like in the game or whatever it may be, and now they're like devastated. It's like their whole life has been the pursuit of being the best football player they can be, and now it's gone, like that. So what do? You know what I'm saying? So I want everybody to know that the whole idea here, part of the way, is to integrate these key virtues and best practices into your life so that you can navigate any of life's issues and get through it without it being so devastating. There's a difference between having something happen to you and letting it ruin you, or having it make you into something better. And you can see this example all throughout life, right? You can see people that have lost a loved one, a child, and it destroys their life. They start using drugs. They, become horrible people. They break up their marriage and everything else. And then you find people that no, they made their marriage stronger. Now they're helping to find lost kids, and they're out there trying to make the world a better place. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that the trauma is less for either one. It certainly is not. It's just how you deal with it, right? This world is not perfect, but you can take negative energy and make it into positive. It's like when you're broken up with a girlfriend or something, do you lock yourself in a cave and drink and abuse yourself, or do you go to the gym? Do you get up earlier? Do you try to improve yourself? This characteristic of the choice that you make in that crux time is what makes or breaks you, is the challenge point, is the test. Are you failing or are you succeeding? And just so everybody knows, if everybody loses a loved one, I know this is huge, especially if you lose a child, and it is emotionally damaging. I have a video, again, how to get through this, but you have to realize that this loved one that you lost would never, ever want you to hurt yourself. They would never want you to feel bad and devastated to where it ruins your life when you're going through that. Not my mom, not my dad, not my child, not anybody, right? So your responsibility is to realize that if you handle this correctly, it will not be as sharp. You will be able to deal with it. Humans have been created in a way that it is super sharp in the beginning, because you're supposed to learn certain things. And one of them is the really, truly meaning of life. You will learn what love means. You will learn the rightness and the wrongness and all this deep stuff. I mean, there's lessons in everybody's tragedy. Once you learn those and you go through the different steps on how to overcome it, it will make you a stronger person. I promise you, if you do the stuff that you're meant to do every day, you will build up resilience, you will build up dedication, you will build up these strong inner virtues that will help you get through everything. And a lot of times that's why these are happening to you, is because God wants you to understand certain things. And realize this life seems like it's super real and super important. But once you're in heaven and you remember this life, it's like a dream you had 5 years ago on a Saturday about something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's important. It did affect you. It did make you who you were, but it's not ever present. You're not living it every day. And it's really not what the true reality is once you experience that and you grow into your true self.
Well, grief is tough. I mean,
yeah, there's so much different levels of grief.
Yes. And I've heard someone say, you know, grief is tough because pain is on a line from 1 to 10, that pain is only the opposite of the energy of how much love you had for that person. So, yeah, so in a lot of instances, we have a lot of pain that creates that grief, and it's just based on going back to love again.
Exactly.
So it's kind of funny how that works. What do you think you would say to our listeners for your final note?
My final note. I would say follow me, first of all. I have a lot more to say. I couldn't even begin to say it on the show. But like I said, I have shows, I have videos. Get on my website. It's the number 7, way.me. That's the hub for everything. And what I want to leave you with is what I found has never been shared before in the history of humanity. I say this not because I'm arrogant. I say this because this is what people are telling me. All the publishers that looked at my book got in the back room and met and said that this was like nothing they've ever seen before. This is different than Robbins and Covey and anybody else. And it is truly transformative. You cannot know the way, really understand it, and have it not change you. So what I would say to you is, everything can be so much better if we all just kind of get on the same page and integrate these key understandings into our lives and then join together in the right way in our society to make this happen. So what I've found is that this is the only time in human history that this can really happen. We are literally connected all over the world instantly. Never happened before. We're all awake. We all understand the great wrongnesses of the world, the inequalities, the pollution, the destruction, the bad practices. It is a time like no other. And what I'm saying to you is this is happening on purpose so that we can make this great change in our society. But the only way it's going to happen is if we join together, we get on the same page, and we make it happen together. So please give me a chance, give the way a chance, give the one a chance, the movement, the party, the tribe, the show, everything, and help me. I can't do this myself. And again, this isn't about me. This is about all of us, and that's the only reason I'm here. So God bless everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, really.
Oh, no.
And Tina, thank you.
Andrew.
You're an awesome host. Thank you so much. You made this so easy.
Thank you. Oh, that's good. That's good. I've had many people that have been very, very nervous from the beginning, and they say, "Oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be." So there you go. It's all good. It's all good. Well, thank you. I'm sure we could have you on again in a few months, Andrew, to talk about more subjects, because love is pretty big.
Yeah, I have a lot to say. Believe me, we could go into the detail on how to overcome negative thinking, depression, and suicide, addiction, and the mindset that it takes to kind of do all of these things. But know that you guys have the power. Every human on this planet has the power. You just have to tap into it.
Absolutely.
Gain the knowledge, and become your best.
Well, and it's funny how it's very similar to your backup plan, because I say you can't fix anything or change anything unless you gain the knowledge. And by your backup plan, you gain the knowledge to what you need to do before something does happen, so that you aren't in that fight or flight moment when it happens. Because you can't think. People don't realize that when something happens, your mind shuts off. It just turns off.
Well, I have endless checklists right here, on different things. It's good to have lists and checklists. And I have my checklist, my go checklist. It literally rip it out, tells me what to grab, where it is, and what to do before the show starts. I have a list of all the things that I'm supposed to do and what I'm supposed to remember. So
Right.
yeah, making your plans and sharing them with each other. It's like the best practices. I'm gonna do a website eventually where we can share our best practices in all the different areas, so that we can figure out where are the 5 or 10 best. You know what I mean? That we
Yeah,
can then
yeah.
all know.
Yeah.
Because that's really what this is about. It's about sharing and helping each other and
And,
loving each other. It doesn't have to be this way, people.
and spreading the love.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Let's start doing that. Absolutely. And there is a lot of love out there. And believe me, people wonder sometimes, but there is a lot of love. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you so very, very much for coming on our show today. I really appreciate your philosophical, is that a word?
Philosophical
points that you've made are very deep and very interesting. And I think people will have to watch the show a few times to be able to grab everything that you've really wrapped up into a little summaries of sections. And I think we could have it on again. And thank you for being so very vulnerable. And I know it hits sore spots. I've been in car accident as well and been through a divorce. And there's
I just
a lot
remembered
of
one thing I wanted to say about my mom.
Yeah.
You asked me this question. It was just that when she does end up going, we've had a couple episodes where I almost thought I was going to lose her, and I had like one thought I wanted to do, and it was to record more of her past, so that we had a record of all her stories, because that legacy of her childhood, her grandparents, my grandparents, you know what I mean, and all of that would be lost if we didn't have it. But also, if you have a loved one that you might lose, don't wait to tell them that you love them and do all the things that you would do until afterwards. Think about, what if you lost them tomorrow? What would you regret? And fix it right now. Because I was lucky that was the only thing that came up when I almost lost my mom a couple of times, was like, I just wish I had recorded more stories. And that's what I'm starting to do now. So don't have any regrets. Tell them you love them, be there for them, and make your life a lot easier afterwards, for sure.
Well, and we talk about that too. And your backup plan, the 12th module, is called the treasure chest, and it's being thought about before someone passes away.
Yeah.
About, I should share that recipe. I should, all those old kinds of recipes that everybody always has. It could be the smell. Maybe it's his favorite perfume, or favorite scent, or favorite flower, or their handwriting, or videos, or their poetry, or whatever it might be. But that's the person's legacy, and that's going to get passed down further. And it's really, really important. And we don't think about those things until it's too late. And so thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, listeners. If you haven't liked, shared, or subscribed to our channel, please do, because I always, somewhere down below right there, click on that bell. I always call it ring my bell, right down there below, somewhere there. So that you be notified of any upcoming interviews and videos that we post. So thank you so very, very much, Andrew, for coming out again. I have all his links down below in the description box, as well as on our podcast. So thank you again for coming out today.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, everybody. Take care. God bless.
Absolutely. So thank you, my German listeners. Also, danke fürs Zuhören, meine deutsche Freunde. And thank you, United States, Canada. Thank you from around the world, because I know we have all sorts of listeners. So thank you very, very much. I always want to end the show with a couple things. And I tested my previous guests in our celebration video. If you haven't watched that, it's also on our YouTube channel. I tested them and said, what do I always say at the end of our podcast? And they said, that I sing the Carol Burnett song, and I do. But I also say one more thing. If you are watching the show today and you have someone special in your mind right now that you love and care about, please reach out, call them, text them, FaceTime them, whatever we have in platforms right now in technology, do it, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. So because you don't want to be thinking about that moment later and saying, I wish I would have called. I wish I would have told them how much I love them. So thank you, listeners. And of course, our Carol Burnett song, which I haven't sung for a while, and I'm looking at my notes to see where my song is. I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems like we just get started, and before you know it, comes a time we have to say, so long. So long, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for following. Thank you, Andrew. Stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. And thanks so much, everybody. Till next time, watch out, share, like, stay safe, be kind. Thanks so much.